Unlock your dream property with Meeks Realty Group, where Rich the Realtor makes real estate dreams a reality. Whether it's residential or commercial, we've got Charleston to Huntington covered. Your key to exceptional real estate experiences start here. Meeks Realty Group. Contact us at meeks.us.
The views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 580 WCHS, its employees, or WVRC Media. From the studios of WVRC Media, the country, the United States of America, the state, West Virginia, the city, Charleston. This is the Dave Allen Show on 580 Live. And your host.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
He's kind of a big deal.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
Dave Allen.
And a good Tuesday morning to you. Welcome to the show. Ryan Nicholson, senior producer in charge of things this morning. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly hotline, 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text, 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live comes to you from the Jarrett Construction Studios, right on time, right on budget. Visit jarrett-construction.com. Phone calls to the show. The service of Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly, Spring Street, Charleston. Texting service provided by West Virginia's finest men's store, Tony the Tailor, on Virginia Street in Charleston. Dressed to impress for the Kentucky Derby with a visit to Tony. And don't forget the suits for graduation, too. Visit Tony the Tailor on Facebook or bestmastertailor.com for more information. Welcome to the show, Tuesday edition of the show. Our continuing series of interviews with legislators about the recently wrapped up session will continue today. Today we'll speak with Delegate Tristan Leavitt, Republican from District 53. That's coming up. Also, last night, and we have a story posted about it, Aaron Parker does at WVMetroNews.com. Charleston City Council last night agreeing to pay out the settlement in one of the cases having to do with former police chief Tyke Hunt. Again, Aaron's got the story about it posted on the website. I'll get into that coming up a little bit later on in the show. Plus, your calls and texts are always welcome. Bigly, Piggly, Wiggly hotline, 304-345-5858. Tony the Tailor text, 304-935-5008. We all know and have read and seen about the issue with foster care systems in West Virginia. Spent a lot of time at the legislature talking about that. For the fourth straight year, a summit is going to be held here in Charleston to try to address some of those issues. It's happening May 7th at River Ridge Church in Charleston. Greg Clutter is the director of foster care initiatives at Chestnut Mountain Ministries, and he joins us this morning in the Jarrett Construction Studios. Welcome to the show. Good morning.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having us, Dave.
Thank you for being here. We have, sir, in West Virginia, the highest rates per capita of kids in foster care in the entire country.
Absolutely, we do.
Why? If you could solve that, we'd be off to a great start, Dave.
All right, why? We not only have the highest per capita rate of children in foster care, Dave, we have the highest removal rate of children from their primary families in the nation. It's about 4 times higher than the national average. Largely, that can all be traced back to something we're all familiar with, and that's the opioid epidemic.
Right. Yeah.
Addiction has ravaged many of our cities. Throughout the cities and communities and families throughout the entire state. And a result has been broken families breaking down at an absolutely alarming rate. So what we're doing at Chestnut Mountain Village is we're taking a little bit different approach to this situation, and that is we're going throughout the state and we're guiding and equipping local churches in terms of how to care for foster, adoptive, kinship, and other vulnerable children and families that may be teetering on the edge. And we're doing that using some very proven Christ-centered methods that have been used all over the country. We're not recreating things. Mm-hmm. So the Foster Care Summit comes out of that spirit, that we're trying to rally communities. We're trying to not only rally the local church, but we're trying to build this collaborative spirit amongst the church, amongst child welfare, amongst local nonprofits. And we're doing that with a very simple mantra, and that is, we know everyone's not going to be a foster family. Not everyone should be a foster family. Mm-hmm. A lot of us won't ever take kin, nieces, nephews, grandkids into their homes. But we believe everyone in West Virginia can do something. That doesn't have to be fostering, but that can be helping the local foster family. That can be taking meals. That can be providing very practical support.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, with anything else, again, as you said, and it's a very good point, Greg, not everybody is in a position to be able to take in foster kids. They have the kids of their own, they're a little bit older, whatever, but everybody can do something to help.
Absolutely. It can be as simple as taking a meal. We find that throughout the nation, we all see these little signs. There are never enough foster families. We all see these little signs of more foster families needed. That's a well-known fact throughout West Virginia. And a lot of things are changing to try to make that better. But something that we don't see very often, we don't talk about it very often, is the fact that not only do we need more foster families, we need to keep the ones we have. It is one of the hardest jobs in the entire world. And they turn over at staggering rates. 50% of them do it for about 1 year or less.
And then what happens?
Then they quit.
Throw up their hands.
They throw up their hands. They're too exhausted. They're too frustrated. They're isolated. They're insulated. What we find throughout the nation is when the local church, which was the original solution to foster care, until about 1920, the church carried the load for foster care in the entire nation. When the local church comes around and supports a family in very practical ways, that number goes from 50% of them leave in 1 year to only 10% of them leave in 1 year. If we can keep more of them and keep them healthy, we have a lot better outcomes for children.
We're talking about this 4th annual all-in foster care summit that's going to be happening next May. Greg Clutter is here with us. Talk about your work within this organization, Chestnut Mountain Ridge. Talk about the work that you do.
Chestnut Mountain Village. I'm the director. It's quite okay. There's a lot of chestnuts in the Morgantown area.
And not one are roasting on an open fire.
None of them are. So Chestnut Mountain Village is ministry. We're a statewide ministry, and we're going throughout the state, rallying and guiding and equipping churches to get involved in this space. What we find is when the local church learns, they just learn a little bit more about what's going on in foster care in their own communities. First of all, when they focus on their own communities, it's not this overwhelming number of 6,000 kids in care. It ends up being a few hundred. It ends up being something that's more manageable. When they find that, and then they reflect on what they should be doing biblically, they all look and go, we want to help. But they don't know how.
Right.
They absolutely don't know how to start. And that's where we step in, where Chestnut Mountain Village takes them by the hand and says, here's step one. Let's start with something small.
Now, what is step one?
So step one very often will be finding somebody that can lead it up. It always comes down to leadership. So step one very often would be who in your church would be interested in helping. Do you already have foster families? What do they need? Step one is just open up that awareness and start the conversation within a church, and get those conversations going. And then maybe someone steps up and says, I'd be really interested in leading this, because pastors can't do everything, especially in West Virginia, where we have a lot of bivocational pastors. They can't do everything. So it usually takes someone to step up within the church. Then we come around that person and we train and we guide and we equip them on how do you do this? How do you identify families to support? How do you get into what the church may be particularly passionate about? And then we just guide them. We meet with them monthly. We provide them with training through national organizations, and we give them structure and a proven model. And that is so much about what Wednesday, May 7th is going to be here at the All-In Foster Care Summer here at River Ridge Church in Charleston, is bringing in people from other places, national speakers who do this work across the country, very successfully have done this work across the country. They're going to be presenting and running workshops. There's going to be a lot of time during the day where people from churches and social workers and local nonprofits and others can just start collaborating and forming kind of a common vision for what this looks like. It's going to be a day of training. It's going to be a day of inspiration. It's going to be a day of connection, because this problem is too big for government to solve alone. It's going to take all of us pulling the rope.
Greg, how do you, if somebody is interested in this, how do you folks go about? You got to be careful, as you well know. You do this for a living. You know this, but you got to be careful and say, well, these folks have all the want to in the world, but they may not be right for this. How do you make that determination
in terms of the people that may want to volunteer and help? Or
either or to be foster parents.
It is to be foster parents. That's a hard one to make the determination. Right. They might have a lot of want to, but they might burn out very quickly when they get ready to start. We don't sugarcoat When someone wants to foster, we never sugarcoat.
You tell them the good and the bad.
The good and the bad. Yes, it can be the most rewarding thing you ever do, but we're also inviting people to step into a very hard place, to very hard work.
Many of these kids who don't have the basics that you teach a kid when they're 3 or 4 about how to behave in public and things of that nature, and how to interact with siblings. Maybe they didn't have siblings and those things.
And a lot of them have been through very deep trauma, Dave. They've been through
a lot
things
of these people can't even begin to understand.
They don't understand, and very often we encourage, one of the first things we do is we encourage people to, when they see a child that's misbehaving, that may have been through a foster care situation or a broken family situation, don't ask what's wrong with the child. Start to think about, I wonder what happened to that child, because those are the things that create the trauma, that create things that we may not understand at all. But that's a big part of the day that we're going to be doing on May 7th, is thinking about trauma and secondary trauma for folks like social workers, foster families. They experience that trauma just by living through what the children have experienced over the years.
The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Live Healthy, West Virginia, presented by WVU Medicine. Live Healthy tackles pressing health issues, heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and RSV. It's a podcast offering insights into medical breakthroughs and preventative care, featuring WVU Medicine's expert physicians aimed at fostering healthier lifestyles in and beyond the state. Great resource. Check out the latest episodes, WVMetronews.com, to the podcast menu, and start your journey towards better health today. This is the fourth year that you've done this. What kind of progress have we made in those 4 years?
So what we've really made is we've seen more and more local churches stepping up and saying, we're going to get engaged, and we're going to make a serious commitment to that. So we've got around 50 churches throughout the state, across 16 counties, that have stepped up in some way and said, we're in. Some of them are absolutely all in, where they're supporting a dozen or more families. You've seen more and more foster families come out of those churches. Some of them have done very small things because that's what they can do. Maybe they've gone and they've supported local child protective service workers, because those folks often feel lost themselves and invisible in the community. Or maybe they've done something just like a respite night for foster families. So we've gone from none doing anything in an organized way, or not a lot doing anything in an organized way just a few years ago, to now we've got over 50 doing that. We're seeing people show up every year in new groups of people. We move this summit around every year into a different part of the state, in a different city. So we're continuing to spread the message.
Where has it been in years past?
The first one was in Morgantown. Then we did one in Taze Valley, close to here. And then we went to Fairmont. And now we're back here in Charleston this year. Yeah, so we've kind of been hitting North Central and the Metro Valley area. But we'd love to see people show up. It's going to be a great day of inspiration. If anyone's interested in registering, they can go to cmvwv.org. That's Chestnut Mountain Village WV, cmvwv.org, and register for the summit. And also learn about our speakers and where they're coming from and kind of the day's events.
I don't want to, as we close, I don't want to turn this political, but I do have to ask you, though, and with the session that recently wrapped up, one of the I guess one of the criticisms of the last sessions was that there was a lot of talk about child care issues, be it foster care or whatever, but they didn't get anywhere. Now, there are going to be several sessions. The governor's talked about that there will be several sessions. And again, I promise you, I'm not going to make this political on you, but what would you say to a legislator right now, somebody in a position of power, about foster care? Because this is something obviously that you're very passionate about. What would your message to them be?
My message would be, whatever we do, it can't be a single point message. No single point, no single policy change is going to fix this. No single new hire in child protective services is going to fix this. This is a community issue. My suggestion would be that we go about and we do this in a very collaborative way. It's going to take everyone pulling the rope. And that collaborative way would look like pulling in local churches. And I think the church is a big part of this, because there are so many people that want to help. They have no idea. So collaboratively pulling in the churches, pulling in legislators, pulling in the courts. It's going to take everyone doing this. No single point solution.
Thus the name All In.
Absolutely. You got it.
Give us the details, the where's, the whens.
Absolutely. So it's going to be Wednesday, May 7th. It's going to kick off at about 8:30 that morning. It's at River Ridge Church in Charleston. We're going to have 3 nationally known speakers there. Brian Mavis of America's Kids Belong, Jamie Finn from Foster the Family, and also Jason Johnson from the Christian Alliance for Orphans. All just amazing, knowledgeable folks that we'll have a chance to spend some one-on-one time with. To register, you can go to cmvwv.org.
All right. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
God bless you for what you're doing out there.
Dave. Appreciate you.
All right. We're going to take a break. 9:22. We'll take a quick break. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live is brought to you in part by Bridge Valley, offering custom tailored trainings to supply skilled graduates and apprenticeships for your company. Visit bridgevalley.edu. Back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Are you a physical therapy assistant and looking for an opportunity in orthopedics, wellness, and athletic care? If so, Generations Physical Therapy is offering flexible work hours and an upbeat atmosphere. With 7 convenient locations, Generations may have a job designed for you. Visit generationspt.com.
Poca Valley Bank has a new name. We are now simply Poca Valley, and here is why we're changing. Our place in the community goes beyond banking. While we still provide the finest in banking services, we also bring excellence in wealth management and financial planning, accounting, and bookkeeping services. Whether you're planning for the future or managing today, we offer the expertise you need. With 8 convenient locations, we're here to help you thrive. Discover the difference at Poca Valley. Relationships matter. Member FDIC.
Life is full of challenges. Finding out your teenage daughter got a full-arm tattoo, or your next-door neighbor took up the drums. One challenge you shouldn't face, being delinquent with your property taxes. The Kanawha County Sheriff's Department reminds you that the deadline is May 1st. After May 1st, you'll pay penalties and pay to have your name published in a big newspaper ad, so everyone will know. Talk about a challenge. Call 304-357-0210 before May 1st and pay your taxes. 304-357-0210.
All law firms are not the same. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
Office 222 Capitol Street, Charleston. Cases will be handled by West Virginia licensed attorneys. The attorney in this ad is not licensed in West Virginia. ForThePeople.com.
The latest in news, talk, and sports on 580 WCHS is brought to you by Jarrett Construction. Visit jarrett-construction.com for more information.
Right on time, right on budget. Call on Jarrett Construction.
924. Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony Taylor text 304-935-5008. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live brought to you in part by Snap Fitness. They have a wide selection of equipment, including free weights, cardio, machine weights, and more. 5 convenient locations too: Charleston, Hurricane, Winfield, Barbersville, and Milton. For more, visit snapfitness.com. Delegate Tristan Leavitt is here, Republican from the 53rd. Good morning, sir. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. I appreciated the exchange there that people don't see on camera with you and Greg Clutter there, because one of the big, as I told him, and I didn't ask him to get political, I said, but one of the big, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the things that gave people pause about the session is that nothing, in some people's eyes, you may disagree, nothing meaningful was done for child care issues, for foster care in West Virginia. And I liked his answer too, and you agreed with him. Yeah. This cannot be fixed by government. I mean, government's a part of it, but churches are a part of it. Individuals, businesses, everybody can be a part of it.
That's absolutely right. And frankly, probably the biggest fundamental dynamic is we need more foster parents. Yeah. Right? And that's not, the government can't provide that.
And the burnout level with foster care parents is so bad. And child care workers too. I mean, I can't imagine what the folks at Child Protective Services and these people, what they go through. But
it's incredibly hard. I don't know if you know, but my wife is actually the victim advocate at the county prosecutor's office.
I didn't know that.
And, they had that white feather trial recently, right?
Yeah,
and again, you see the people in this community that are willing to step up are just there's so many phenomenal foster parents, but it's so hard. And then you get these really bad actors, and it's a really hard job CPS has.
Well, I think those people, and then talking to the folks that were involved in that court case, I think those people thought they could I'm just riffing a little bit here. They thought they could get by with it in West Virginia. They were wrong.
Because
there was a lot of neighbors that just said, something ain't right here. We're stepping in.
That's exactly right. So that was a success. It's horrible the way that it did, but But again, we need way more people to step up for foster kids.
Give us the good, the bad, the ugly, your breakdown of the session from your perspective. You can start with one and go to the other. I'll let you lead. How's that?
All right, that sounds good. One of the things I was really excited about, and I know that it's been controversial, there are mixed views on it, but I think that the microgrid bill to facilitate AI data centers could be a really big thing for West Virginia. And we don't know for certain how that will play out, but this is something that we have not benefited from so far. Virginia, Pennsylvania, other states have them, but nobody has them on the scale that this bill would help to facilitate. So it's over 90 megawatts. I'm on the Energy and Public Works Committee. I think this is a really exciting potential thing for West Virginia. So that to me is really high on my good list.
What do you say that there were those? And I think you would probably understand their mixed feelings on this, just because they want questions answered. I know that we had different county commissions that came in, some development authorities that came in just with questions, and you can completely understand that.
Absolutely.
I can completely understand. What was your message to those folks?
Some of the things got addressed. So some of the questions from county commissioners and others had to do with the tax revenue, right, where that went, and I think that did get addressed in the final breakdown, where more of it went to counties. Some of the questions like local ordinances being overridden, I think. I'm sympathetic to the concern. I hope it won't be an issue. I've heard people say, they could plop a data center in the middle of your neighborhood, but this bill only relates to data centers, again, that are over 90 megawatts, which is a really, really, it takes a real chunk of space to do that. Mm-hmm. So they're not going to be in the middle of residential areas or whatever else. So, I hope that it's passed now. I hope counties will just welcome these and work with the people that they need to. If they need to work with a company to say, hey, we think that this should be in a different place or something else, I hope they'll work that out. But right. I think there's a lot of potential with it.
All right, so that was a home run.
That was a home run.
Now let's talk about maybe a single or a double. Let's talk about something that was could have possibly. But then we'll talk about failures. But go ahead.
Sure. Well, a couple of things I have not heard people talk a lot about. I know Kayla yesterday mentioned the universal licensing. I think the one-stop permitting thing has some real potential to be good. Home-based businesses.
I haven't heard anybody say anything negative about that one-stop system.
But I don't hear enough people talking about it. Right. Yeah. I think these are some really good things for the business community potentially that I think will be really beneficial. So, I hope that they fulfill the potential there. Again, this home-based businesses, there was a bill to make that easier to start those businesses in home. Something that I think could have a really good impact is the Prompt Payment Act I was a co-sponsor on. It got kind of watered down, but there are a lot of people that don't get paid, including foster homes, very swiftly by the state. So the state owes them money. They're owed the money. No one disputes that, but they are waiting and waiting and waiting for paychecks. And so I think this, even though in order to get it across the finish line, we had to cut out a provision that would have added penalties for the state agencies. But so I think that's a solid double. I think that could be a really good thing for ensuring that, again, contractors, folks working on our roads or things like that, because it makes it hard to get people willing to do that if the state doesn't pay them in any timely fashion.
Talking again with Delegate Tristan Leavitt, Republican from the 53rd. The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by your hometown baseball team, the Charleston Dirty Birds. Mountaineer Dirty Day happening with Mountaineer Little League and softball teams this Saturday over at Go-Mart Ballpark. Play starts at 9 in the morning. Will continue throughout the day. Admission is free, but donations for the Mountaineer Little League will be accepted. For more info, visit Dirty Birds, their Facebook pages of either the Dirty Birds or Mountaineer Little League, and get more information on that. All right, some things under the dome that gives Tristan Leavitt a little pause and go, we could have probably done this better, or we could have done this at all. What do you think?
I would have loved to have seen. I think there were a lot of bills that got left in the final analysis that didn't make it through both chambers. So I would love to see, more coordination between the House and Senate. I know that there were some, hard feelings over certain bills, but I think seeing more good legislation not held up just because of who sponsored it or other things like that, really would benefit everyone. Similarly, it's hard to see. You've got Republican House, Republican Senate, Republican governor. There's a lot of mixed views and feelings on that, but at the end of the day, we're sent there to help the people of West Virginia. And so I hope next year we'll be in a better place to be able to coordinate more and not spend time on drama or other things that don't matter to most people.
There was a little drama, especially there toward the end of the closing night. I've talked about it on the show before. I was watching, and there was a lot of questions about parliamentary issues and so on and so forth, going back between the Senate, between the House, and whatever. Your take on any of that?
I don't know I haven't read the letter, the multi-page letter from Senator Garcia and Senator Wolfel. So I don't know. Parliamentary, at the end of the day, I don't know what the nub of the issue is. There are things that people, you can, for instance, consider a bunch of amendments in a block, right? That is a parliamentary permissible thing to do if you do it properly. I don't know what they did in the Senate. I haven't looked at that, so I don't know one way or the other.
You were concerned about the other side.
Well, that's right. We were trying to figure out. There was a lot of time on the House side. If it ends up in the courts, then it does, right? So they'll sort through it one way or the other. But I think at the end of the day, the details matter, right? It's one of those things where just without knowing the specifics and watching it, it's hard for me to know one way or the other.
We had a text here, and this is something you were talking about, data centers, something that probably hasn't been explored a lot, and I'll put a little bit of blame on the host here. What is West Virginia getting from data centers? What's the upside, in your opinion?
Revenue. Massive revenue potentially. So if data centers come, a data center of the magnitude that's contemplated in the microgrids bill potentially would bring in hundreds of millions of dollars a year for West Virginia. And obviously we want to bring jobs, we want to bring people, but also revenue is really helpful here, right? And so almost every problem, when you look at teachers wanting to receive more, EMT workers, so many of the things. We could use more money in our foster care system, but the pie is only so big. And so usually you say we need to get more people to move here. A bigger tax base would do that. But if we can get revenue from these data centers, tax revenue, then that's a huge upside for West Virginia.
Let me finish reading that text because they ask about that, and you can answer this. They said the first part of the question, which I read, which is what is West Virginia getting from the data centers, but the texter goes on to say they'll provide temporary construction jobs and a dozen or so jobs to work the center, and with the Republican legislature, the data center taxes will eventually be reduced from where they start. I'm not seeing a good rationale to put a gigantic building on a scarce flat land or farmland.
Well, for one, I'm not so sure that we have a lot of land, and especially in the southern part of the state, I don't know that it's all that scarce, right? I think we're looking for ways that we could usefully use some of that. For two, again, if the revenue comes in, I think that's right. I think that there will be a boom of kind of construction and doing that and more jobs. Those construction jobs won't be there forever, but and it'll scale down to what the final number of jobs is that a data center employs. But again, if they are able to bring in large amounts of revenue to the state on a regular, each year, I don't see what the downside is of that.
Governor has alluded to the fact that there will be special sessions. We don't know exactly how many or when. What are some of the things that you would like to see addressed in a special session?
I think the question of foster care is still one that, again, that this legislature didn't see a lot put into that necessarily, and it was tough. There were some good bills on both sides, House and Senate, that didn't move. So I hope that if we do come back, that's one area where I would love to see some focus there. I'm sure the governor will. There are I don't know. There was a lot that was left on the cutting room floor. I'll just say that. Mm-hmm. And so what his priorities would be, I don't know. But anything that relates to bringing jobs and people and business and tax revenue to the state is where I think our focus should be. So that's what I hope he would do.
What, since the session has been over for, a week and a few days now, what's some of the things that you've heard from your constituents about the session? Or have you had an opportunity to get out yet?
I have, for sure. I think people have had questions. Again, I think to me what were some of the big wins a lot of people aren't talking about. And so I people are saying, a big chunk of people said, well, again, there was nothing that would help bring jobs and business. And so again, microgrids, these things we've talked about here. I think people have asked about what would focus on our education system. I think you've heard me say before that I think the Third Grade Success Act a couple years ago was one of the best pieces of legislation the state has ever adopted.
Explain that.
The Third Grade Success Act refocuses our school system on the science of reading. It does dyslexia and dysgraphia screening for students. It makes sure that there are aides in the classroom. And so just for instance, the dyslexia screening alone. My daughter has dyslexia. That's a huge, you look at these behavioral issues, a big portion of that no doubt comes from students who are struggling to keep up with what's going on in the classroom.
Sometimes they're just frustrated too.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Teachers have told me that, Tristan. They look around and they see that their other classmates maybe are excelling, and you know how kids can be, and a lot of that just comes from frustration.
That's right. So we're still waiting to see the impact of that, but I think the behavioral bill and Senator Grady spoke about that in the last I don't know, a few days or week or something on here. Cell phones being banned in the school. Those are some good things that I think come from that. So again, I think a lot of the stuff that could have an impact just hasn't been talked about a lot. So when I talk to my constituents, whatever their issue is, I said, well, we did this and this and this. And they say, oh, I had no idea about that. And so I think that's unfortunate that it's not percolating out.
Well, and I think sometimes what happens is people only get excited about the sexy stuff, the ones that make all of the noise. And I've had Republicans, Delegate, and Democrats on the show that have said, the majority of what we do is bipartisan, as bipartisan as you can be when you have a super duper majority.
Sure. But
it doesn't get a lot of the attention because it's not the quote unquote sexy stuff. It's the way it is. Talk about this was the first session under Governor Morrissey, and there was a lot of change. There were a lot of new members in both chambers. You had new leadership on the Senate side. Talk about some of the changes this year. And I know you haven't been around there forever, but I mean other people that you've talked to about about the different styles.
Yeah, so you definitely have very different personality styles in the governor's office, also in the Senate, and new chairs of all the Senate committees. On the House, we had a whole new committee process, and that really was a learning curve for everybody.
Did you like that new committee process?
I did like it a lot. It does slow things down. There's no question of that. But for my background is oversight, and I think it really facilitated digging into some bills, and not just into bills, but into issues. And I think that's one of the challenges in the past. For anyone to be speaking in a committee, it had to be about a specific bill. We were able to have hearings to just say, this is the problem. We don't know what the right solution is, but let's hear from witnesses, and let's get a better sense for what the legislation should be to address this. So I thought that was very effective, and was useful in kind of targeting some problems. For instance, in government spending, some other areas like that where we're able to get down in the weeds in a way you wouldn't with the old committee process. So I thought that was good. But again, like most people, I just think the upshot of this is that it was a learning curve on a lot of fronts for a lot of the people who were there, even people who had been, who were longtime members of the legislature.
New rules for them too.
New rules, new processes, again, a lot of new personalities. So I'm hopeful that next year we'll be able to take the good that happened and the lessons that we've learned and be able to use that to hone in on where we think the biggest problems are that still need to be addressed.
So the session is behind you. Of course, there'll be special sessions where that's pretty much a done deal. We just don't know when and where and that sort of thing. Well, the when, I guess, would be the
where is easier for me. It's in my backyard being here in Kanawha County.
I got you. But so let's get a little personal for a moment. What's up for the family? I know you're a big family guy because I see you follow you on social media. You always get pictures of the wife and the kids and whatnot. What's on the agenda for the Leavitt family?
Well, this is my son's last summer before he goes to college, so we are trying to spend as much time together this summer as we can.
Get as much work out of him as you can.
Yeah, that's right. 17 and a half years hasn't quite been enough. If I can get more out of
the grass still needs mowed, right?
The grass still needs mowed. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of good family time. Which spending time. My parents are actually in town right now from out of town, and so yeah, that time is precious. So anything we can. My wife and I are taking a trip ourselves. Also, it's important, even with that many kids, frankly, to spend time with just the two of us. So,
and how many kids you got?
We have 5.
5. I thought you had kind of a high number of kids there.
Yeah. So the oldest is a senior, all the way down to a first grader, and they are the biggest blessing in my life. They are such a joy, and they're really the reason that I wanted to be in the legislature. Again, the day-to-day really impacts them in their schools, in our community. I want them to be able to, to have jobs that they could find here, to be able to stay and raise their own families in West Virginia. But so yeah, we'll be spending a lot of time together this summer, which will be great. And it makes up hopefully for the time that I was essentially AWOL for the last couple of months.
And I talk about this all the time. We'll let you go after this, but I think people don't realize that when you serve in the legislature or in any governmental office for that matter, you're not the only one that's serving. The wife is serving, the kids are serving because dad or mom is away from home. And people, I think, also think that when you serve in the legislature, that when you gavel in at 11, you go to a couple of committee meetings and go home. There are committee meetings held at 6:30 in the morning. Well, especially as you get toward the end of the session, 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, you're out of there. Then you're back again at 6 the next morning. You're a Kanawha County guy, so it's not as difficult maybe for you because you are going home every night. You're not staying in a hotel or staying wherever. It's a big ask of everybody involved.
It is, and as you point out, as much as my family felt the impact of this, I really appreciate those who are coming from the panhandles. I mean, it's a huge sacrifice to uproot your life for 2 months to go live in a hotel room. But I tried to fill all of my time, right, to go to Judiciary Committee meetings in the morning, to government organization in the afternoon, to energy in the evenings. And, there's a lot that goes on during the session, a lot of time people put in. So I think families understand that and appreciate that. I know mine was very supportive. But for everyone, it's a relief to have, their other family member back.
All right. Delegate Tristan Leavitt, Republican from the 53rd. I appreciate you being here, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
The Dave Allen Show on 580 Live, brought to you in part by Morgan & Morgan. If you're injured, hire Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Back after this on the Voice of Charleston, WCHS.
Brought to you by the Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses. Eric J. Tarr Family Businesses bring first-class businesses to your community.
Whether you're starting your career or looking to advance, Bridge Valley's stackable credentials let you earn certifications and credentials while working toward a degree. Flexible, affordable, and 100% online. Learn, work, and achieve your goals on your own time. Get certifications like QuickBooks, Lean Six Sigma, and more, and stack those credits toward a degree. And you may be eligible to go tuition-free with West Virginia Invests. Bridge Valley, stackable credentials for career growth. Enroll today.
I was running until I wasn't. My hospital stay would have cost nearly $48,000, even with insurance. But with VA, I'll pay $0. And VA is the best, most affordable healthcare in America for veterans like me. Knowing that my family is waiting at home and a surprise medical bill isn't, that's good for my heart. My service was then, my benefits are now. Get what you earned. Visit choose.va.gov.
Not all veterans are eligible for the type or amount of benefits mentioned here.
I'm John Carruthers, the owner of Best Virginia Heating and Cooling. Here at Best Virginia, we believe in providing a 5-star experience for your family. That's why we're always looking for hungry, humble, smart people to join our team. Our technicians are drug tested and background checked. If you want to work with a locally owned and operated company that truly values you and our customers, we want to hear from you. To apply, simply visit bestvirginiahvac.com or Indeed to view our open positions.
Adventure is boundless. Adventure is a journey that never ceases. When you hit the open road or the open water, time stops and adventure begins. From anchors away to kickstands up, a continuous tradition of adventure is the spirit that drives Trojan Landing Marine and Power Sports. Featuring Lund fishing boats as you, the morning softness, and sheer glass catch endless adventure. Discover more at TrojanLanding.com or visit Trojan Landing Marine and Power Sports in Charleston today.
Welcome back to the show. 16 minutes away from 10. Piggly Wiggly hotline 304-345-5858. Tony the Taylor text 304-935-5008. If you're worried about paying for college, Metro News proud to present the 18th annual West Virginia Scholar Program. One high school junior in the state going to get a full scholarship to West Virginia Wesleyan College, including room, board, tuition, and fees. For details, go to wvmetronews.com. Click the Apply Now button. Deadline is April 27th. The 2025 West Virginia Scholar Program presented by the West Virginia Hospital Association and Friends of Cole. Go to wvmetronews.com now to apply. The deadline is April the 27th. Let me knock out some text here. Text says, I'm open line on text. You can talk about anything you want, even things we're not talking about. An MS-13 gang member being treated better than many January 6 defendants. Nod there to Mr. Garcia. Well, seems to be a question on whether he's an MS-13 gang member or not. I don't know. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm battling pollen issues like a lot of people are. Mine don't come in the form of puffy eyes. Mine come in the form of me having a scratchy throat. So I do not have a serious illness. I just cough a lot. Text says, going back to yesterday's show, in regard to highway safety, there's practically no enforcement of aggressive driving and speeding. I drove to Ashland on Saturday, didn't see a single police vehicle going down or coming back. I drive the speed limit and didn't pass a single vehicle. However, I was constantly being passed by vehicles traveling in high rates of speed. This is a reference to yesterday's show. When I was a kid, says a texter, we caught fish and put them in my neighbor's swimming pool. They called the police. That guy does, and they called him the mayor. This was the Metro News Midday show yesterday when we were talking to the mayor of Kaiser, and he talked about, we do a segment every Monday on the show called Mayor Monday, where we go around the state and talk to a different mayor. And the mayor of Kaiser talked about that they closed the community pool for one day and they stocked it with fish. So that's a mention, a nod to that, if you will. Coming up, speaking of which, later today on Metro News Midday, 13 News and Tonight Live anchor Amanda Barron and myself welcome in Attorney General J.B. McCuskey. There is a gentleman from Charleston that did pretty well for himself in yesterday's Boston Marathon. We're going to introduce you to him, plus a horrible story out of Gasaway, West Virginia. Two parents are accused of giving their infant rubbing alcohol to ease the child's fussiness. Well, the baby died, and the parents are now being held without bond. We'll get into that story and more coming up on Metro News Midday, presented by Salango Law, on this and other Metro News stations around the state, with 13 News and Tonight Live anchor Amanda Barron and myself. I do want to mention a traffic situation, and we told you about this on the morning news and all the other stations in the building. We started getting reports about an hour and a half ago that there was a major traffic tie-up on Route 60 near Jefferson here in Kanawha County. Apparently, they're doing some utility work there, and I don't know whether that's still going on right now, but we started getting